interview with ANI, Edityanath had said, and I'm going to quote here, Gyanvapi can't be called as a mosque and that the Muslim side should admit their historic mistake. Now, remember, this is an issue that courts are looking at as we speak, with the Allahabad High Court set to pronounce a verdict on a petition filed by the Masjid Committee in this very case in just 3 days from now. We'll take a deeper dive in just a few minutes into the context of this case, the history behind it. But today, in our debate, we're focusing on a single question. Coming just before the 2024 national elections, how should we look at the Chief Minister's comments? Appropriate or, as the opposition says, an overreach? All right, let's take a quick look first at what exactly it is that the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister had to say. Number one, he said that it was incorrect to call Gyanvapi a mosque. Number two, he said that a Jyotirling, a Trishul, a number of other symbols were all found inside Gyanvapi. Number four, he's also said that the walls of Gyanvapi are screaming and saying something. He said the Muslim side should accept that this was a historic mistake. That's the quote that we started with. He's also said the Muslim side should also propose a solution on this. Now let's take a look at what's happening in court and a bit of the historic timeline around this entire issue. This is an issue that first came to courts back in 1991, but more recent developments actually started around 2019. Now, earlier this year, a Varanasi court on July 21st ordered an ASI survey, an Architecture Survey of India survey, on the Gyanvapi. Now, the court ordered that first the scientific survey needs to be finished. They had set a date of August 4th for that. To that, the Muslim side, the petitioners, had challenged the order, first at the Supreme Court, then at the Allahabad High Court. Remember, we said that the Allahabad High Court will pronounce its verdict in just a few days from now. We started by telling you that. That is due on August 3rd. Meanwhile, the Allahabad High Court extended the stay on the ASI survey till the verdict was announced. So that is the backdrop. But with that historic backdrop, we are still looking at our central question. The Chief Minister's big remark, the Chief Minister of India's most populous state making this statement, is it appropriate or an overreach? Let's take a look. This is Plain Speak.
अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा। मुझे लगता है कि भगवान ने जिसको दृष्टि दी है वो देखे ना, त्रिशूल मस्जिद के अंदर क्या करता है, हमने तो नहीं रखे ना। ज्योतिर्लिंग हैं, देव प्रतिमाएं हैं, पूरी दीवारें चिल्ला चिल्ला के क्या कह रही है। और मुझे लगता है कि ये प्रस्ताव मुस्लिम समाज की तरफ से आना चाहिए कि साहब ऐतिहासिक गलती हुई है और उस गलती के लिए हम चाहते हैं समाधान।
योगी आदित्यनाथ जी ने बहुत ही सच्ची और सही बात कही है और सही बात कहने के लिए बड़ा जज्बा चाहिए।
जो पूरा खसरा नंबर 9130 है वो हमारे हिंदू मंदिर का परिसर है। ऐतिहासिक गलती हुई है अंजुमन इंतजामिया से तो वो मान लें।
आप मुख्यमंत्री है, कानून को फॉलो करिए। आप कानून को फॉलो नहीं करना चाह रहे, वो मुसलमानों पर प्रेशर डालना चाह रहे, दबाव डालना चाह रहे हैं।
मुसलमानों से कोई गलती नहीं हुई, उसको इन्होंने जबरदस्ती उसको मंदिर कहना शुरू कर दिया।
All right, let's take a deeper dive into this entire issue. We have two guests who are with us to start out. We'll have more guests joining us later in the show. But first, let's start out with the two guests we have with us. Dr. Kaushal Kant is with us. He is a spokesperson for the UP BJP. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us. Now, we also have with us Atikur Rahman. He's an Islamic scholar. He's also with us this evening. We're going to come over to both of you to understand in more depth what your perspective is on this issue. Dr. Kaushal Kant, I want to start with you first, sir. After Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister, made this comment, the opposition reaction came in. And their reaction has been clear. You've had the contention made that in stating this, the Chief Minister has commented on an issue that is sub judice. It's just not done. Doctor, I want to ask you, when you look at the numbers, the Chief Minister became Chief Minister in 2017. He last commented on Gyanvapi in 2015. So when the opposition says he's not commented this far, why is he commenting now? To that, sir, what does the BJP have to say?
It's all about personal faith. If I have got faith in something, it's my right to say anything. But what he said in Sanskrit we call prataksham kim pramanam, means everything, whatever is displayed on the walls of so-called Gyanvapi Masjid, or truly the mandir, is trishul, idols, lotus, swastik, all are the Hindu symbols. It has been exposed. If you go, previously there was no barricade. If there was no barricade, if you see from the behind, you will see the whole wall is mounted with all the Hindu scriptures and architect. So whatever he said, it is true. I don't think there is any problem, and history is saying, all the archaeological evidences are saying, and now the matter is in the court, where the Muslim Muslim side is opposing, Masjid committee is opposing. Why to go for scientific analysis? If they feels that if it is a masjid according to them, according to their faith, what is harm in going for test?
Okay.
That's what we call Prataksham Kim Pramanam.
Doctor, I'm not questioning, one second. Doctor, the answer that you're giving me is an answer in which you're talking about what it is that the Chief Minister had to say. That was not my question, sir. I'm trying to ask you, why now? 2015 say to today, he's not made a comment. Why now? The timing is what's being questioned, sir. We'll get to the content in a second. First tell me that.
I answered the first question in first line, that it is my faith. When I want to go for puja, when I want to go for worship, when I want to go for mandir, it's my faith. By the time he was not thinking, now he thinks that it is the right time to say, so he said it. It's about faith. It's not about who is saying, it's about my faith. He is first Indian, then he is a Hindu, then he is a CM. So he has full right to say that.
All right, sir, stay with us. I just want to introduce to our audiences the two guests who've just joined us. We have Tausif Khan, he's an analyst, and Dr. Geeta Bhatt, she's a political analyst who's with us. Dr. Geeta Bhatt, I'm actually going to come over to you with the next question. We heard what Dr. Kaushal had to say. He said it's a matter of faith, that's why the Chief Minister has chosen to speak. But the opposition doesn't seem to believe so. In the answers we've seen coming in through the day today, the key thing that's been pointed out is the timing, the fact that elections are just around the corner. Doctor, how do you look at this? What's your expert perspective?
Well, Toya, I think if you, what matters is that what he has said, how much fact is there in that. And I think, you see, time and again, there are innumerable such evidences, such historical evidences are there, historical facts are there, which very clearly point out that it was basically the Vishweshwar temple, which was demolished in 1669 by Aurangzeb, partially demolished, and using that rubble only, structure was created, which is called as the Gyanvapi Mosque. Also, in the name itself, it is very clear. Gyanvapi, how can a mosque? Vapi is basically well in Sanskrit, so it is a sacred well of knowledge. So the name, 3.5 centuries have passed since around that time that, when this demolition took place. And no one ever thought of even changing the name, because the roots of that place, they very much are the part of the Vishweshwar temple. It is very much evident, Toya, if you have visited that place, each
Dr.
one of us who has visited it can very clearly.
One second, Doctor, if I too were to ask you again to comment on the timing and the fact that this is a matter that is sub judice. You are not typically supposed to comment on something courts are looking at. To that, Doctor, what would you say?
See, the matter is sub judice, but please also remember that when the women plaintiffs who had put up their request asking that they would like to go and do the prayers inside the outer boundary of the so-called mosque of the of Hanumanji, Ganeshji, and of Shringar Gauri. At that time, it has been very much submitted that till 1993, there were already these kind of prayers were being done every day. 93, 94. It was only in 1991 when the Places of Worship Act came, and after that, the government of the day at that time, which was led by Mr. Mulayam Singh, They were the one who decided and stopped it and decided, you know, very whimsically that only once in a year that people will be allowed. I think under Article 25, this is, even if it is a matter which is sub judice, under Article 25, just like other minorities, even Hindus have a right, you know, to worship their deities as in where they are
Doctor, I'm not
placed.
debating that right, and I'd like to clarify that to Dr. Kaushal too. I'm not getting into the meat of the matter. That is for a court to decide. Ma'am, I'm asking simply about the timing. I'm gonna ask you to wait for a second. I do want to bring in Atikur Rahman. He's an Islamic scholar. He's been waiting with us. Tausif, I'm going to come to you in a second too. Do keep with us for just a second. Let me go over first to Mr. Rahman to understand his perspective. Sir, what was your reaction to the comment that came in from the Chief Minister earlier today, especially when he said that, because his comment, the comment that he's made about the Muslim side, as he's called it, so that indicates that he wants the Muslim side almost to take proactive action in this case before the court has to say anything. He's almost said they should take action. So to that, what is your perspective?
Well, I think, you know, this is the first time that the Chief Minister and a minister under oath is coming into the controversy of the Gyanvapi. So far only the fringes were speaking. So it's a welcome step if he is calling for the Muslim side to take some steps, and being the Chief Minister, why don't he call the Intizamiya committee of the Gyanvapi and talk to them? Second important aspect over here is the BJP and the RSS, they have fought a very, very long and tedious battle for the Ayodhya Ram Mandir in the courts, outside also with the Rath Yatra of Mr. Advani. You know, I don't understand that why they do not club all these matters of their faith, as Dr. Kaushal pointed out. If faith is so important, not the law of the land, sir, then you should club all these matters. The Hindus and Muslims of India want to stay and live in peace. As per the Supreme Court, you know, their observations and their decrees related in the Ayodhya matter, they too pointed out that the law is not the answer to go into the history and correction of what was wrong in the history. So why the under oath Chief Minister and the under oath, you know, governments are, you know, putting their heads into a sub judice matter, and they were silent. They were silent since 1947. They were silent since 1991. They were silent all these years. And very important point is, today the RSS chief has said that no, we are not into this controversy of the Gyanvapi. We will be fighting the thing into the courts, on the floor of the courts. You know, so why are the people making, you know, in this shroud of, you know, secrecy by the Hindutva elements? I don't understand. As you rightly pointed out, they will make it an election issue in the days to come.
Okay. Mr. Rahman, just stay with us. I want to go over to our fourth guest. Tausif Ahmed remains with us. He's a lawyer and a political analyst. Sir, you've stayed with us through the last three discussion points. I want to understand, sir, first, what is your perspective on this issue and on the fact that the Chief Minister made his comment when he made it? Then we'll come to you with further questions.
You see, the Chief Minister comment is that the Muslim side should correct the historical wrong. Now, on this very notion, you know, this perceived historical wrong and the correction of it, the Places of Worship Act was passed by Parliament, which clearly said that the status of the places of worship would remain as it was in 15th August 1947. And the motto behind that, the idea behind that was that all the existing proceedings will stay in abeyance and no new claim will be entertained. So it was, and only the Ayodhya dispute was kept outside the purview of that act. Now that paved the way for both parties to come to a settlement. Now, since the Supreme Court heard this matter, since the Allahabad High Court is hearing this matter, so it was completely uncalled for by the Chief Minister of the state to make such a statement. If he is making this a statement, then obviously he is transgressing into the judicial domain. Rather, he should stay away, stay out of it, especially since he has not spoken about it in the from 2015 onwards. Now we all can understand the compulsion for him to make this statement can only be political, given the fact that 2024 elections are not very far away, and given the fact that Manipur has taken the incidents of horrific incidents of violence in Manipur has taken pushed BJP into the backseat. Now the leaders, the BJP leaders, would somehow want to come up with some one or the other issue and make political statement to sweep the public opinion away, to divert their attention from the real issues that country is facing. Because it is, after all, the law and order situation of Manipur holds the Home Minister directly responsible, the BJP's Chief Minister of the state directly responsible, and the Prime Minister who has not spoken on Manipur violence as much as he should speak. Even in the Supreme Court, the observation today, when the central government lawyer tried to justify the violence in Manipur by saying that the similar incident had occurred in other states, Supreme Court did not buy that argument.
Okay.
So the BJP has to be made accountable for what is happening in Manipur. And one easy way to get out of it and to make a political pitch for themselves for the 2024 election is to raise an issue on Gyanvapi, and it is unfortunate because it is sub judice matter pending before the court. On August 3rd, High Court of Allahabad will pronounce its judgment.
Okay.
What is the need for the Chief Minister to come out and make public statement?
Tawseef, can I actually stay with us? Thank you for making that point and bringing up that issue. I do want to go back though, however, to the BJP representative who's with us on the show right now, because we are talking about a BJP Chief Minister. So hopefully Dr. Kaushal will be able to shed more light on the motivation. Doctor, I want to ask you, one of the reactions that came in earlier today to what the Chief Minister had to say was from the AIMIM's Asaduddin Owaisi, someone we know who has been very vociferous in the past too, to his opposition and his opinions on this issue. Sir, in his response, he raised an interesting point that the Samajwadi Party has raised before also. He said, what about, and sir, you probably know this point because it's come up before in political debate. He said, what about the structures that were of a different nature in other areas? And he talked about Badrinath. He said, what about Buddhist structures that were made into Hindu structures and vice versa? Will all structures around the country start being questioned now? Sir, Mr. Owaisi's point, I think, was just how large are you going to make the ambit? Where are you going to end this question? So to that, what is the BJP's answer?
Missing, I think Asaduddin Owaisi is famous for his own ideology, and he is totally communal. He is the leader of same party who says that 24 घंटे के लिए पुलिस हटा दी जाए. They are like that. So I cannot answer them because they are always focused on only one thing, that is Muslim. Here the notion of whole country is there, and our CM is saying they have given their opinion and they have said that if the Muslims are ready, if the other community is ready, both the community come and sit together and decide the issue instead of going to fight. So that is, I think, a better and welcome step. And everybody should think about that. All the controversies should be resolved by talking. Okay. And Mr. Tawseef is saying about the judiciary under the pressure. It is the same Allahabad High Court because of whom the Indira Gandhi has to bring the emergency. So our judiciary in our democratic system is so strong. Our judiciary is very strong. If they will find anything illegal, unconstitutional, they will strike it down. And right now the court is also ready, and now the scientific analysis is going for that structure. Why the Masjid committee is opposing, why the Muslim Paksh is opposing for the scientific analysis, without destroying, without anything. If we are going to the fact, what is the real fact, and if that can be corrected, I don't think there is any issue. Okay. And my friend was saying about historical injustices. Just let me finish in 10 seconds. Historical injustice. Because of historical injustices, our constitution is giving the social justice by providing reservation for historical injustices. In the same way, if that historical justice is compensated by our constitution, in my opinion, our constitution is a very dynamic constitution. It is a live document. It's totally depending on what the democracy wants, and whatever the democracy wants, our constitution is capable enough to deliver that thing. I think that is totally purely on the basis of basic structure of our constitution. I don't think there is illegal, and even if judiciary feels something is wrong, they will come up with a strong statement as they come with the late Srimati ji, Indira Gandhi ji.
Okay. Doctor, I'll ask you to stay with us. Let's go back to political analyst and Islamic scholar Atikur Rahman, who remains with us. Mr. Rahman, sir, I want to ask you the same question that we've just heard the BJP put forth over here. We've seen, we know already that the Muslim litigants in this entire case are going to be going forward protesting against the scientific survey. What reason can they give on record for doing that, sir?
No, please repeat your question. What reason regarding the scientific survey you are saying?
For saying that they don't want the survey to take place, sir.
Exactly. You see, the Muslim side, the Intizamiya Masjid Committee is relying only on the fact of the 1991 Places of Worship Act, opposing the scientific survey, because the moment you dig, the moment you excavate, the moment you go deep into this controversy, it will be changing the character of the masjid. And change of character of the masjid is in violation of the 1991 Places of Worship Act. The simple proposition what the experts say is the government of India, which is a pro-Hindutva government, why are they playing this shroud on the people of India by not repealing or amending the 1991 Places of Worship Act, which is already pending in the Parliament and the Supreme Court.
Okay.
You know, the easy way out, they are, skipping that particular easy way out, and they are putting the Hindus and Muslims into this imbroglio which they will be utilizing for the election purposes.
Okay, all right.
For their vote banks, for consolidation of the Hindutva.
Mr. Rahman, just stay with us. I want to go over to Dr. Geeta Bhatt to take to her exactly this question. Mr. Rahman's answer, Doctor, you heard it, but Mr. Rahman's answer essentially says, stop focusing on anything else, focus on the act, change the act if you want to have a larger change. And ma'am, to some degree, it's easy to see the perspective he's coming from. Dr. Bhatt, what do you think about this answer?
Well,
this perspective?
you see, the Places of Worship Act 1991 has already been challenged, and the Supreme Court was supposed, there are certain provisions which have been challenged in it, and it is already in July the hearings were supposed to take place. Maybe the dates have been further moved. But the point is that yes, for this, the places of worship, the changes, they must be brought into that. But along with it, another question arises, and that is that why is it that the Anjuman committee of the Gyanvapi Mosque, why is it that they are so fearful of the fact that one scientific investigation of the place is going to be done? Because this is, you see, till 1990 to 1993, there are a large number of people who have gone inside the premises, and very well from their naked eyes they can see that there are, figures of goddesses and gods which are there on the rubbles from which the walls have been made. At least if nothing else, are they in a position or that they can at least accept that a wrongdoing has been had happened in 1669, and it is a demolished structure of the temple from which the mosque has been constructed? At least that much they can come forward. See, it is a matter, I think Yogi Adityanath has actually talked about that they need to come out. Please allow me to speak.
No, I want to come to you with the counter question. When the Islamic scholar who's with us right now, Mr. Rahman, is saying, he's not opposing what you're saying. He's saying target the act first, then make these changes. To that, doctor, what do you have to say?
You see, already there is there are certain ladies who have gone to the court and have asked that they may be allowed. What was their simple plea? Their simple plea was that they should be allowed to do the puja inside the, within the outer walls of the mosque, as they have been doing earlier till 93-94. Now, had the committee, if it was not challenged that they should, and if the Anjuman committee had not gone and challenged it, it could have been just that they had simply gone and asked that they should be allowed to pray just that the way they were doing it till 92-93. So the question is, why a counter question is not being asked, that why is it that they are scared and they are not allowing these ladies, whosoever wants to go and do the prayers inside? Because see, this is an open secret. Toya, this is an open secret that this was a part of the temple till 1669, till it was demolished by the on the orders of Aurangzeb. It is very much historically documented.
All right. Doctor, I think we've wandered away though from the question I was asking. Let me first go to the analyst that we have with us because we haven't gone to him in a while now. Dr. Tausif Khan, we're going to come to you. This might be the last question of the panel. We might have time to go to our other guests. There was a utopian idea suggested in between this discussion, both by Dr. Bhatt and also a little earlier by Atikur Rahman. They both actually suggested the same thing. They said, why can't both sides come together and have a discussion? And I thought it was quite an interesting point because they were saying the same thing. Could you tell us, Tausif Khan, what do you think needs to take place for two sides to come together, for a conversation to actually take place? Sir, if you're able to give me a short enough answer, I'd also like to go to the BJP after. So do try to, sir, give me an answer.
See, there are two aspects. One is mediation. Court may always direct that both parties should come sit and try and mediate, amicably settle the matter. That is what they're talking about. Secondly, I would like to address that the doctor raised that what are they scared of? The answer to that is very simple. You see, SP Samajwadi Party leader Maurya made a claim that Badrinath and Kedarnath were
we talked about that.
Buddhist religious site. So today Buddhist monks comes and says that I want to do a survey of Badrinath and Kedarnath. Would you allow that, or if anyone comes and says that why are you scared, why don't you allow the survey, would you allow that? No. Everything has to happen in accordance with the law. If the matter is sub judice before the court will have to pass an order. Even for the mediation that she's talking about, that both parties can come and sit and together, that's for the court to decide. If court passes a direction, both parties to sit together for a mediation, they will do that according to the directions of the court. Unless we don't have a rule of the law, unless we do not believe in that, unless we want to forcefully demolish the structure like it was demolished illegally, as the Supreme Court only court has said that it was demolished. Ayodhya temple mosque, Babri Mosque was demolished illegally. Also, there was no conclusive proof. ASI survey did not have a conclusive proof that the structure beneath the Ayodhya Mosque was a Hindu site.
No, it's very incorrect. I would like to object to it. It is all the submissions, thousands of pages of archaeological study that was done by the archaeologist B.B. Lal and his team. It was submitted, and there are proofs which very clearly show that there was a temple inside. Please, please don't belittle by making such false statements. Very clearly that temple-like structures are there and elaborate thousands of pages. The report which was submitted was in thousands of pages where every elaborate description was given of the study that was done. So please kindly don't make such statements that there was no such proof which was submitted in the court as far as
for the people to read the judgment and decide whether the ASI report was conclusively accepted by the Supreme Court. It is all in writing. The judgment clearly states.
All right. Okay, I'd like to thank all of the guests that we've had join us over the last few minutes for providing their perspective. We tried to understand what a world would look like where the two sides came together and had that mediation process. Right now, it's time for a short break. On the other side of the break, we're actually focusing on a very different story. Months after the Darshan Solanki suicide case, IIT-B has asked students not to disclose their JEE ranks. But is this enough to put an end to the story around discrimination based on caste that is taking place in campuses around colleges in India? That's the question we're looking at. It's a very different question in just a few minutes on Plain Speak.
The understanding is happening, so it's a process. But more importantly, those who are understand and identify with India, if they wake up to this and then they call out this kind of a game which is happening, then perhaps we have a solution in sight. But we have to be clear that beyond the ethnic strife, there are entities which are deliberately stoking it too.
Intel sources are now revealing to us here at CNN News 18 that China and Pakistan, as I pointed out, are adding fuel to the Manipur crisis. CNN News 18 has also accessed this intel note and the details that we will just be breaking for our viewers in just a bit, how China wants to take advantage of this region, also of this sensitive time. Let's first break down the details in terms of what is this intel note even revealing to us here at CNN News 18, and then of course we'll also talk to you about what they want to do as far as fueling fire further to this already sensitive situation. Let's break down all those details in terms of what is the role of China and Pakistan and what do they want to gain of a sensitive situation. This is what the intel note is now revealing here on CNN News 18. First, external forces taking advantage of the crisis. As I pointed out, the situation still remains sensitive and tense. China and Pakistan wanting to take an undue advantage of that situation. Charge 2, China trying to push arms and drugs via Myanmar. This is something that we've discussed in the past as well. 3, China and Pakistan allegedly using Nepal as a launch pad, as I pointed out, as a silent launch pad. They're trying to infiltrate terrorists and weapons, trying to use the unrest on the ground. What we also now want to break down is in terms of what do they want to achieve as far as this infiltration bid is concerned. China using Nepalese traders to fund radicals are also part of this intel note. Traders working as Chinese spies in the northeast region. This is also what the intel note is revealing. Chinese markings found on arms that have been recovered so far as well, showing the nefarious plan as far as China and Pakistan is concerned. Now, why is China and Pakistan trying to take an undue advantage of what is happening in Manipur? How are they planning to target Manipur and also using Manipur? Let's break down those details as well. There is connectivity to other South Asian countries as well. So if they're able to enter through what's happening in Manipur, and then they get access to other areas as well. The second is several infra and rail development projects, so they get access to that as well. The third is there is an aim to create another Kashmir-like situation. This is something that we've spoken time and again. The peace and normalcy in Kashmir has, of course, ruffled a lot of feathers across the border. The third is aim to create another Kashmir-like situation, as I pointed out, and that is why they want to target Manipur today and take an undue advantage of the unrest that still continues. Let's also try and bring our colleague Anand also in the conversation to try and understand the modus operandi, what they aim to achieve, and more importantly, what are the other details that are now emerging from this intel note. Anand, as we pointed out to our viewers, this is not the first time that we're reporting stories, but what is it that China and Pakistan wants to do of the Myanmar situation as far as the nefarious plan is concerned?
Well, there is a history to this. It's also chronicled back till 1971 that the Chinese were interested in helping the Pakistanis with military planes and also with war chests at that time, so that they could seal off all of the northeastern part of our country and sever it away from India. So India would have ended at West Bengal at that point in time, and anything beyond that would be either with Pakistan or become East Pakistan, and thereafter all the other northeastern regions will get into Chinese control. The other aspect one need to understand is that there is also the ethnic strife. There is a lot that's happening in Myanmar which is having a direct bearing on what is happening in Manipur. So because of the entire Chin state fights, which are civil war situation, the military junta losing control and the Chin state itself and the Chin National Army taking control, there are a lot of tribes who are also moving away. The last 2 years of civil war in Myanmar has led to a lot of the cookies who are now coming into the Indian part side, that is the Manipur area. They are inhabiting the hills. With them have come arms, with them have come drugs. So this entire increase in the acreage of poppy fields has also happened by about 2015 onwards. I was having a chat with Lieutenant General Abhay Krishna, and he's also served there. So he had some very interesting points to make, that we need to consider that there could be an interest for China and Pakistan to try and flush those routes, but that's an important trade route connect. Now, there is also the possibility that India is also invested there, because we are looking at the More project. Via More, we are looking at the transnational project where we are planning to connect India, Manipur, India, Myanmar and then Thailand. So billions of dollars which are now invested in that project. So that gets affected. This trade route is also important for the Chinese who get access towards Chittagong. But more importantly, there could be other entities too. There could be Western entities who are actually using using this market and consuming the poppy that's being raised here to fuel their pharmaceutical industry there. So that is another dynamic which is there. So all of this means that there are vested entities who want that area to be in a flux. China for long has nurtured this because it's part of its overall Belt and Road project, the OBOR project. It wants to dominate.
Speak right here on CNN News 18. My name is Toya Singh. We're headed now towards our second topic of discussion. Our second story is a very different and very important one. Months ago, we brought you the heartbreaking story of Darshan Solanki. He was a first-year IIT Bombay student whose death put into the spotlight allegations of caste-based discrimination taking place in colleges across the country. Now, Solanki's story is not the first, and his family continues to demand justice as the college and the police probe both say that Solanki's death followed his concern about poor marks and not caste-based harassment. Today, in a move to counter discrimination in their campus, IIT-B Bombay, IIT Bombay essentially, has instructed its students that henceforth it will be inappropriate to ask other students what their JEE advanced rank was or their GATE scores were because it may reveal their caste. But today on Plain Speak, we're going to be asking, is this move and others that have been made by the college that we'll take you through, are these moves enough? Let's take a quick look at some of the data that we have on this entire story. This was not the first time that a student died by suicide allegedly due to casteism. All of the next cases we're going to bring you are from IIT Bombay. One in 2014. It was what IIT Bombay announced a number of its measures for. We'll actually take you through those numbers in just a bit. But first, I want to walk you through what IIT Bombay has said they're going to do in terms of changes. Number one, they've said that caste identity is not going to be disclosed to anyone post-admission. Number two, they've said SC/ST student cell will be set up in campus to assist students. Number three, they've said students will be encouraged to interact irrespective of their caste. Number four, they've said students will be asked to avoid sharing their JEE scores. And that's an important one because that's the point of discussion today. All of the other changes we've talked about, all of those changes had already taken place on the college campus before the Darshan Solanki incident. This is the only change since. Now, they've also said anti-discrimination guidelines have been shared with students. Now, let's take you through some of the numbers when it comes to IITs. We're going to be flashing these numbers for you on the screen next to me. We have these data points from 2021, 2022 and 2023. Now, when you take a look at, and you can actually see these numbers, as I said, on the screen next to me, when you take a look at the total number, what we'd like you to do is add the SC, ST, OBC and minority numbers together and see what proportion of the total number they are. In many cases, you'll see, like in 2021 and in 2023, that those percentages are between 30 to 50%. All right, those are some particularly heartbreaking numbers. We're going to move to the topic that we're discussing today. As we told you a little while earlier, the Darshan Solanki case, IIT Bombay's anti-casteism move. Is this enough to stop discrimination? That's the question we're taking a look at. And to start this entire conversation with us, we have the Deputy Director of IIT. He'll be joining us in just a second.
Guideline also mentions how students are not allowed to have any WhatsApp forwards or any casteist remarks being sent on social media across.
Okay, to get more context into this story, we thought first that it was important to hear what it is that the administration had to say. This is S. Sudarshan. He's the Deputy Director of IIT-B. We have him with us today to bring us more context on IIT-B's most recent decision, but also decisions they made in the months following this incident. Our first question to you, sir. Sir, firstly, thank you for joining us. Our first question to you. Could you explain to our audiences why IIT Bombay decided to make the move that we're talking about, the move that's in focus today, which is that you've said that students can't discuss their JEE rankings when they come in? That shouldn't be the first question they ask each other, which is something that is quite customary in IIT. Why did your college decide this? What's the context?
Okay, so every year IIT Bombay take certain actions to ensure that students get along well with each other and that there is no discrimination based on caste, gender, and so on. we have several orientation programs that when students join here, which tell students what is acceptable, what is not. This year, we decided to put whatever was being conveyed through various different orientation sessions into one common guideline. And that is what has been circulated in various places now. And we have sent it to all our new incoming students and also to our existing students.
All right, sir, I do want to ask you though, if one were to ask if this move comes in response to the incident that took place months ago, where of course a first-year student, Darshan Solanki, died, what would the college say to that, sir?
Okay, obviously, that's a very unfortunate incident. We have been taking various steps even before the incident to avoid these kind of things happening, including the issues of caste and so on. There has been work, but obviously, we are doing more of it this year. And we hope such things will not happen in the future. We are also introducing various support systems. We are ensuring that the stress levels in the first year are reduced from the coming year. And so we have taken a number of steps so that these incidents will not happen.
All right. So the incident you talked about, the incident that we're talking about, this is something that the entire nation has talked about. I do want to ask you, sir, you've said earlier also, and IIT also has said that they are introducing a set of measures. One, for example, is the increasing of caste sensitization across the entire campus. But sir, this is something that's also been written about in media outlets. I want to ask you though, sir, the sentiment that we get when we speak to student groups on the ground is that the college is still not doing enough, that having a course sensitization for caste sensitivity, this just isn't enough. So to that, what would be the IIT-B's administrative response?
We are doing a variety of things. Like I said, the gender sensitization was already launched last year, and last year, even before these incidents which happened in the last few months, we had already started the creation of the corresponding caste sensitization course. So the administration is taking a number of proactive steps. It's not just reactive because of recent events, but it has been proactive, and we will continue to do it. We are, of course, part of a larger society. We have to educate our students when they come in, and also those who are already here, so that they learn, what kind of things can cause hurt or harm, and are educated to avoid such behavior.
Okay, sir, I now want to get to the issue that has caused controversy. We know on record, both from the police investigation into this entire incident and of course what IIT-B had to say, that both IIT-B and the police believe that it was academic pressure primarily that was to blame. But if you look at the accounts of student after student who come from backgrounds like Darshan Solanki, they all say that academic pressure is very hard to separate from the issue of caste. For example, when you're on the campus and so many of the classes are happening in English and you come from a background that hasn't equipped you to handle that, that can be very tricky. So this is something that his family also has pointed out. Do you think that there needs to be some kind of acknowledgement from the administration that these two issues can't be separated, that it isn't such a clear divide?
To answer the first part of your question, as you said, some of these issues may be because some of the students are not very familiar with English. So we have for many years been conducting extra classes in English for all those students who do it. In fact, the very first day or two that they land up here, there is a small test in English. And for those who clearly need help, they have been given support to learn about English. But those have been primarily in addition to the academic course load. This year, we have changed it for the new incoming batch. Those who need English, for them, this will be a regular course and a replacement for some other alternative courses which other students take, which these students can take later if they want. But the goal is that from the first semester, they are given more support if they need that for English. And the academic stress is related to the load also. And so this year, we have reduced the load in the first year. So that students get more time to settle in a new environment. We have increased the orientation, which was fairly short, 2 or 3 days earlier. we now have a full week's orientation, which started today. So we are taking various steps to reduce the stress on students. We had half semester courses earlier. We have got rid of half semester courses so that if students have some difficulty settling down in the first few weeks or a month, they still have time to catch up on courses, which was a little more difficult with half semester courses. So we have taken a number of steps to reduce the stress. This is, of course, based on various feedbacks we have got from students.
Okay. So there's one data set which says that 90% of IIT Roorkee's dropouts are members of backward castes like SC, ST and OBC groups. And experts say that numbers like that indicate that these are groups which are genuinely having a very, very hard time on campus. Now, you just walked us through different initiatives that have been taken by the administration. But what I'm not understanding and what I'd like you to clarify is that are you then saying that post these different initiatives that have already been taken, let's see what happens, let's wait a little while and then comment on this issue?
See, we have been doing various things. These are not the only ones. For example, I don't know exactly what the numbers are with respect to based on the background of the students. But certainly there are students who have had difficulty, completing their bachelor's programs. So again, about a year back, we introduced an option of a 3-year degree for those who do not want to continue with the 4-year degree. And in particular, let's say they are in a branch which they are not very comfortable with, they can get a degree which is called BSc 3-year in engineering. Which is with a broader engineering background, not just branch specific. If they want to continue with their branch, but they do not want to finish the full year program, 4-year program, because perhaps they're having academic difficulties, they can do a smaller number of courses and get, let's say, a BSc 3-year in electrical engineering or in computer science. So when these students go out, they get a proper degree, they can get placements and so on. So this is one of the other steps we took about a year back.
All right, so I want to push back though on one thing slightly. I do want to touch on this question again. In many of the articles written by experts post this actual incident taking place a few months ago, one of the things experts seem to agree on again and again that it was important for IIT-B to acknowledge that these two issues are not issues that are different from each other, that they are in fact interrelated. And to say that it was not his caste, or in any student's case, not their caste, just the hardship they're having in their education, that is too much of a blanket statement. That's the criticism, sir, that's come in from a number of experts. To that, sir, what is your thought?
See, obviously, caste might have played a role, but it is hard for us to know what happens in individual cases. So I cannot comment on any individual case. Now, there are obviously students who are affected by this, but what is the number and so on is not something which it's easy to pin down in this case. But what we can do as an administration is to ensure that these kind of discrimination, which sometimes, it is not meant to happen that way, but it can feel that way. Sometimes it may be intentional. Whatever it is, we want to make sure it does not happen. So part of what we have been doing for many years, and we will, this year we have made it a little more formal. We've told them in more explicit words rather than just in the orientation that these are guidelines you have to follow. And if you don't follow it, we have had always a system where if such things happen, students are punished, just like ragging. There are multiple other things like this, where violations will be treated very seriously. And so we have been doing it, and we are strengthening it so that the campus is much more inclusive for all our students, especially those from communities who feel who have been discriminated against in the past. We want to make sure that they feel at home and in the campus.
All right, I'd like to thank the Deputy Director for joining us and for taking out the time. We have two guests with us that are going to shed more light on this entire story. The discussion we're going to have is going to look to understand what more needs to be done. Dr. Geeta Bhatt, a academician and political analyst who was also there with us in our previous discussion, and Professor Shobha Bagai, a cluster innovation center expert at the University of Delhi. I'd like to thank both of you for joining us. Professor Bagai, I'm actually going to come over to you first to ask you, we walked our audiences through a little while ago what the different changes that IIT has brought in to combat this issue are. But the fact is that when you take a look at this list, one change has been brought in post Darshan Solanki's death. That change is the change that we're discussing today. Most of the other changes have been in place though for years. I want to ask you, ma'am, what more do you think needs to be done, and what are the accounts you hear from students on campuses? You're of course at the University of Delhi.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on board. You know, one thing that comes to the light that the institute has taken, that the students must not discuss the rank, is something I think we need to consider it very seriously, because that talks about, it brings into the light what we have been talking about, that all of us are being in the rat race. Who is coming first, who is coming second, and who is coming last? And we are in fact judging the students, and maybe in a broader sense, the other aspects of the society, and we are putting them into compartments of ranks, which I think is very, very unfortunate. That is something, which this whole discussion, at least for me as an academician, has brought into the light, that why are we so much after ranks? Because each individual, as per his or her own capacity, can do wonders in the world if they do not, give up so easily. And the students discussing there that what your rank is, it gives them a sense of superiority, that look, I am at the rank so-and-so and your rank at so-and-so, so I am better than you in some sense or the other. But once, when we come to the academics, we all understand that marks, in fact, they are just not even an iota to actually understand any person's academics ability. There are so many factors, by which you are there at a certain rank. At that instance, when you're giving an entrance test, how your brain works, whether you're able to comprehend that problem, or, you've just made a slight mistake here or there. So there are so many factors that come into play. That, of course, should not be there. And when we talk about the stresses, yes, these stresses, we cannot run away from the fact that these stresses are being created amongst the students, either through their peers, or even through their family members, or through the society. That you will be considered good only in case you have secured an admission into college X, Y, and Z. I think it is high time, at least in terms of the education, when we say that we are educating somebody, we should get rid of this concept of rankings.
Okay. Ma'am, I do want to understand though from you, since IIT has already introduced this change, I want to know though what your overall thoughts are. We talked about the fact that this is the only change they've introduced since the incident we talked about. They have said, for example, that they plan to introduce caste sensitization courses. This is what we were discussing. Do you think this is enough? And as you are obviously a professor active on campus right now, what are the accounts that you hear from students about not just academic pressure, ma'am, but caste-based discrimination? Because I don't want to obfuscate that aspect of this topic.
As far as the caste discrimination is there, it's good for me that at least, because we have a very small number of students admitted into our in our institution. And at least I do not find that very blatantly in our institution. Because in our institution, I find the students irrespective. I mean, it's very difficult for me to even understand that if somebody is from a caste A, B, or C, because the students are actually working together. And we have a project-based learning scheme. And what we try to do is we try to form those teams, and I don't think so there is any concept of caste coming into it. But having said that, I don't think so we can discard this problem at all. And the sensitization of each and every, I would go ahead and say every person, that would include the students and the teachers. Each one of them must be sensitized, the family members must be sensitized that when you are going to an educational institution, your religion is only as a student, your caste is only a student.
Okay.
And no other caste matters.
Professor, just stay with us. I haven't gone over to the other guest who's with us yet. Dr. Geeta Bhatt, thank you for waiting with us over the last few minutes. Dr. Bhatt, your first reaction to this entire story and what IIT has to say? After that, we'll come to you with further questions.
Well, you see, I think premier institutions like Indian Institute of Technology have been, time and again, they have been looking at how they can overcome these unfortunate incidences which we have been listening to, for the past few years, where such young students, they have given up their lives. And primarily, I think it is largely because there is, so much of peer pressure in terms of students may ask very innocently regarding someone's rank, or it could be just healthy competitiveness. But it may result into, very serious ramifications for some of the students, as was being discussed, by the Deputy Director of IIT. So, what is important here is that there are various safeguards that the institution is trying to take place, and I think any institution, educational institution which comes across such cases will try to look at how they would best way to safeguard their students from any such mishaps to take place. And I personally feel is that while it is important that these kind of various guidelines they need to be issued, it seems that they have been doing it earlier also, but earlier it was through in a more informal manner. And here, this time they have put it right forth in ink that it is important that the students and among each other they need to be very, very cautious and careful, not to hurt anyone's sentiments.
But doctor, do you think that's enough? That's what I'm trying to understand.
That is what I am coming to that point. I personally feel that while all these guidelines, these safeguards that have been taken by the institutions are very important, but at the same time what is important is that we need to prepare our students to face failures in life, because even in institution, once you pass out of the institution, there are so many challenges that one faces in life. It may be at your place of work or in your family or in any other kind of circumstances. So it is important that there should be counseling sessions where the students should be able to accept even if anyone has got certain limitations or shortcomings, and look at the ways, show them the ways that how they can overcome these the shortcomings because of which they are facing failures. For example, one was put forth by you was in terms of language, that the teaching is in English, and this could be one of the reasons a large number of students who are coming from rural background, they may not be in a position to understand the language very well. And so this is, I think, in a way a shortcoming which has developed because of the way education has been taken forward in the last couple of decades, which I am sure that the national education policy which addresses this issue, that it is very important that the education even in technical institutions or medical institutions should be given in the languages, in Indian languages, in Bharatiya languages. So these kind of changes over, we have to keep introspecting and look at the ways how we can make the education more inclusive, where students who are coming from poor socio-economic background, they are also finding a place and are able to do well in academic institutions and in life.
Okay. Dr. Bhatt and Professor Bagai, I'd like to thank you for participating in today's discussion. We just discussed not only what it is that the college had introduced since Darshan Solanki's death, but also what more needed to change in the entire system. With that, we come to an end of our show. Thank you for watching us here at Plain Speak. We're going to bring you more of the country's top stories on the other side. This is CNN News 18. We're going to be signing out.
You feel that this survey will clinch for the Hindu side, the fact that this temple was indeed raised, of course, as per historical records too, and a mosque was built over it. Is that the game set match here?
इंडियन नेशनल डेवलपमेंटल इंक्लूसिव अलायंस का पर्याय हिंदी में सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका प्रयास, सबका विश्वास है। क्या सही मायने में आपकी अलायंस भारत के हित के लिए बनी है कि स्वहित के लिए बनी है?
Ask the Home Minister, ask the Prime Minister the tough questions on what they did and did not do in Manipur. But instead, you are lending the government an opportunity to claim that it's not them who's running away from the debate, but it's you, the opposition.
Namaste and Jai Hind, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and of course the forthcoming Tamil Nadu Assembly elections thereafter, BJP's Tamil Nadu BJP Chief K. Annamalai has begun a Padayatra, or Padayatra as you would say it in Tamil. Yem Man Yen Makkal. The yatra was flagged off from Rameshwaram by Home Minister Amit Shah. The yatra is to celebrate the Modi era and highlight the achievements and vikas during the NDA regime over the last 9 years under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Annamalai during his yatra has claimed that he will also expose the DMK. So will this yatra turn into votes for the BJP? Will the BJP actually break ground in Tamil Nadu? What's the fortune of the